Hey guys, so just wrapped up an interview with Elysian, and now I'm here with Jukka and Markus from Finland's own Omnium Gatherum. How are you guys doing today?
We're really good.
Really, really good. Happy to be back in business.
Hell yeah, it's so awesome. So your latest album, Origin, is out now. Can you talk to me about the whole writing and recording process of that album, how it all came to be and that good stuff?
Yes, we certainly can. Maybe we'll start about the whole composing process. So it's Marcus's alley. So there you go.
Well, like I said many times, surprisingly, there was a lot of time this time to make for composing as the world stopped. So we used the time wisely and did a lot of music, and we rehearsed a lot as a band, which is something we haven't done for 10 years. So it was really happy times in that sense. So it haven't been only bad.
All right, would you consider this album just picking up where you left off after The Burning Cold, or is this almost kind of like a new start for Omnium Gatherum in a way?
Well, of course, it's like a continuation of all our previous albums, but it's also a standalone in a sense that, you know, we're always trying to make that kind of music that is kind of like moving forward in a sense, but you can also hear all the known elements which OG is known from.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like with all your guys' albums, it's almost like a pathway. Well, if somebody were to first discover you guys, should they listen to Spirits and all, it's light to Years and Waste up to Origin, or can it be approached from different angle, your discography?
Well,
I don't know. Yeah, it's always pathway to pathway. There's some new things on some album, and that new thing becomes like the main structure for the next album, and it's all about going into the pathways from album to album, but it's still basic idea is always the same, and we don't plan too much, we just do.
Awesome. And going into like you, Jukka, as a vocalist, do you usually need to hear music in order to come up with lyrics, or do you usually have a lyrical concept in mind and that can help determine the outcome of the music itself?
Well, the concept thing, I usually after like a tour process of a previous album, the next concept will start coming up to my mind. But then, Markus always he's kind of enthusiast to making new riffs and melodies. So he sends me that stuff, and that always inspires me to actually write the lyrics. But the concepts, they are kind of forming on their own, and it's an evolving process. In that sense that there might be some changes along the way, but the main concept usually before I start to write anything serious, it's somewhere there back in my mind.
All right. And do you usually tend to leave lyrics open to interpretation, or do you try to engage the listener into what the songs are about?
Well, it's a two-way street in that sense that I leave some room for people to discover the meanings of the lyrics for themselves, but they are they are not just existentialist stuff. So I have straight up things that I want to say to people, but interpretation of people is also an important thing.
I always ask Jukka from a translation before the promo process starts. So, what do you mean with all this? So I can speak about to the people what Jukka is up to. So I'm the guy who needs translation.
Yeah, exactly.
So do you usually have a formula that Omnium Gatherum sticks with, or do you try to experiment with your sound?
Always experimenting a bit. Maybe this original album was more dive to the 80s music, and that was the mood when making it, listening a lot of 80s music, synthwave, and watching Miami Vice from TV. So that was the basic mood making the album. So we kind of dumped a lot of 80s hard rock and 80s stuff into the music, and also did the band pictures.
Awesome.
Yeah. Still it has the darker side, which also Omnium Gatherum is known about. So that basic structure is there, but from album to album there are these themes. For instance, in this new album, it was the 80s things and the synthwave thing.
Awesome. And like going more into like your songwriting, do you usually put yourself into a certain mind frame to create music, or just come naturally and organically?
Well, I don't have any recipe for that. I don't know how it happens. Basically, it's usually just happens. Sometimes it's really hard, and sometimes it's really easy. One song can take like from becoming ready from from years to 5 minutes, and that is some black magics.
Awesome. And for you, Markus, because I know you also play with Insomnium. Is there like almost kind of like similarities playing with Insomnium? They can also like working with them, sort of like bringing forth like something new for Omnium Gatherum, or you try to keep them separate?
I try to keep them separate, and funny enough, I like the work methods and the feeling in the band is like completely different from each other. So in my head, it's completely clear which is OG, which is Insomnium, and
Right.
the only two similar thing is the names,
Yeah.
which is stupid coincidence.
Yeah.
Like, how can one guy who formed band named Omnium Gatherum years ago go to another band which is called Insomnium? That's just
Yeah.
like a fate wants to fuck up with me.
Yeah, and I know you. No, the one time I was supposed to see you, you were going to do double duty, but of course that got canceled. I was just wondering, has there ever been a time where you played with both bands at the same festival or tour or anything?
There's been many times. We did like one European tour.
Yeah, 2015.
And we
Wow.
2015 we also did like a US tour. So basically, in 2 months' time, I played like 100 gigs.
Damn, you had to
or
like
something.
Yeah, was your brain like overloaded with like you have to know all these songs?
Yeah, and basically the North American tour 2020, which means North American tour Philadelphia. We only get to play one
that
show.
was fucking crazy. I've
That was
heard.
supposed to be a double duty, and as also we were supposed to do European tour again, but
It got cancelled also.
I prefer one show per night.
Yeah.
If someone asks me.
All right, and then kind of like also going into the live setting, is there like a similar energy to like playing live, or they're almost kind of like two separate entities?
Oh, you mean?
Like the difference between playing live and then recording?
Oh, it's a completely different thing. The energy is different. You can get like really good vibes, like making an album or practicing an album. But the feedback from the audience, for example, is one main thing that live gets us really, really going.
Yeah, I always think like a music or album is a three-way process. It's like it starts with composing the stuff which I love. Then comes the tricky part, get it on tape on studio, which I don't love. it's the hardest part, and then always at the end comes the prize, which is the playing it live for the people. So it.
Awesome, and I got two more questions for you, kind of like going back to songwriting, because I love asking artists this, because usually I would get like this most simple answer and a very long answer, but for you guys, how do you guys know when a song is done?
I think after many demos and a lot of thinking and a lot of like maybe a couple of beers and discussing it when we're hanging out and spending the night and stuff like that. But well.
Yeah, I've had a new recipe lately for this, and after all this bumbling around and bouncing the ideas and making many versions of the demos, when I'm confident this is basically ready, then I go to my summer car and listen to the demo there and drive around, and usually there still comes really good ideas, and you immediately know when the mood is good, then the song is ready.
Awesome. And final question I wanted to ask you guys is, coming from Finland, which I consider Finland to be the metal capital of the world, from of course Omnium Gatherum, Insomnium, Amorphis, Children of Bodom, so many great bands from Finland, but I feel like Finland's also very diverse, because a band like Children of Bodom is different from a band like Nightwish, that is different from a band like Winter Sun. So I guess, was there like a scene in Finland that you always felt part of, or was it for the goal for Omnium Gatherum to get outside of your country and play in front of different countries and different audiences?
Well, I think in general it's the passion for the metal music that drives like a Finnish metal bands. I think of course there's the darkness and the winter, which are kind of like cliches, but in a sense those kind of cliches are totally true.
Yeah, and totally it have something to do with that. In the 90s, these first bands like Amorphis and Sentenced or Impaled Nazarene, they started to get a lot like international recognition. And basically in Finland, there hasn't been a lot of bands recognized outside Finland ever before these metal bands, except maybe like a Hanoi Rocks, and that's about it. But of course it helped so many metalheads to form bands and want to do the same trick.
Yeah, and I think Finland also has similarities to here in Atlanta, because Atlanta has a diverse metal scene. Like a band like Mastodon is different from a band like Seven Dust, is different from a band like Cloak or Left to Suffer. So I think Atlanta and Finland have a lot in common.
The weather is a bit different.
Yeah, it's a lot, pretty much hotter.
At least in the winter.
Yeah, a little bit warmer today.
In Finland we had this much of snow, and here we are.
Yeah. So anyway, before we go, I just want to thank you guys for this interview. It's just going to be an awesome show tonight with you guys, Elysian and Black Crown Initiate. There's just anything else with Origin that you'd like to promote for this album cycle?
See it live.
Yeah, thanks for doing this, and we've been really, really looking forward to do these live shows, because this is why we live.
Yes. So, Kitos, guys.
Kiitos.
Kitos.
Cheers.
So, everybody, Omnium Gatherum. We'll see you next time.